Hello and welcome to Start the Week. Some 50 years ago, I went to Hull College of Education in order to undergo training as a special needs teacher. And we had to choose another subject in order to go there, and I chose PE as my subsidiary. I quite like PE. The first month was very interesting. I had been playing rugby at school, and indeed after I'd left school for a while before going to college. But it was all rather competitive, and things came to a head when, after a month, the person leading the PE department said, "We're going to have a swimming gala with races." I did say to him, "I'm sorry, I can't swim," but he didn't take any notice. So we went to Allenby Road Baths, I remember it well. I got changed, and the first item on the agenda was a relay race. And I was lined up with some very enthusiastic lads who were sure their team was going to win, and another team adjacent to us, and off we went. I was about fourth or fifth in the line. Now, I'd said I couldn't swim, and it got to the point where the person in front of me touched the edge of the bath, and I stepped off the edge into the water. Now, I had noticed that there were people walking around in what I supposed was the deep end, so I managed to keep my chin above water, and I walked the length of the lane that was assigned to us, and pulled myself out of the bath at the far end, walked through the footbath, got back to the changing room, dried myself off, got changed, and got a bus back to college, and never did PE again. Instead, I chose to do religion, and the person who was the main tutor there interviewed me for about a quarter of an hour and tried to put me off. He said, "You do realise it could change your life." I rather liked his attitude. It was very self-deprecating and quite good fun, and we had a marvellous 3 years studying religion, and it's also where Deb was actually in that particular class, which is wonderful. Anyway, I still can't swim. Now, I'm not proud of the fact, but it is a fact. So I often like to read very carefully the story from Matthew's Gospel of Jesus walking on the water. You may remember he urged his disciples to go ahead of him across the lake while he went into a mountain to pray. And during the night, in the fourth watch, Jesus appeared to them walking on the water, and their boat was in real peril, very stormy conditions, and they were frightened. And Jesus says, "It is I, don't be afraid." And Peter said to Jesus, "If it really is you, bid me come to you across the water." And he stepped out of the boat, and as we know, he started to walk towards Jesus. But as soon as he took his eyes off him and became aware of the very boisterous elements, the water and the wind, he started to sink, and he cried, "Lord, save me." And we're told in the Gospel that Jesus stretched out his hand and rescued him, saved him. And of course, the change of life in being with Jesus that happened to Peter and those other early followers was monumental. We wouldn't be here without that. Now, coming forward in time from that story in the Gospel to the Second World War, there was somebody called Caril Houselander who was a poet and who wrote this. She was very frightened during the Blitz, and she said, "I do feel we've just got to shut our eyes and dive into this sea of Christ. Dive with the trust of people who can't swim and yet go straight into the dark water." This sense of being with Jesus. Do you not know that all of us who have been baptized into Christ Jesus have been baptized into his death, so that we may be raised with him and walk in newness of life? So changing course from PE to religion back then did indeed change my life, and it's still changing, and the excitement and the wonder and the apprehension also of being a follower of Jesus is still with me.